Hello, my friends. How are you guys doing today? I just want to make a little video here because I was just thinking about it, and your fear of being alone is what is keeping you unhappy because now you're not doing the things that you want to do because you have this fear of either abandonment, right? Rejection, I suppose. And from my own experience, that's what at least I know the fear of being alone comes from. Oh, and the fear of being with your own mind because you're scared of yourself. You're scared of your mind. You're scared of your thoughts. You see yourself as your worst enemy. And it's crazy because I remember coming across a video once of somebody going on the streets with the microphone and asking everybody what is their worst fear, I believe the question was, and it was my own mind. And it really put into perspective though how that is a very universal experience for a lot of people, because that's something I even went through. What I got from that and from my own experience is when you're scared to be alone, you kind of live life. I feel like you conform to other people's life, and then you kind of take up their day to day, their personality, the things that they like, the thing when they're gonna eat, when they're gonna sleep, because you're now kind of like their duckling, like you're following them around, and you abandon yourself. You don't really have your own way of doing things. And I feel like obviously there's levels to this, but if you're truly scared of being alone, you will do anything to fill that fear so you don't have to confront it. And by doing that, I feel like that is making a lot of us unhappy because, yeah, there are things we want to do, but we don't do it because what if somebody doesn't like that we're doing it? Or what if we leave this person and there's nobody else out there to love us? What if we do this? And we're always looking for that external validation. What if somebody else doesn't like this? What if I'm not loved? What if I'm rejected? What if this person doesn't want me? What if this doesn't work out and I'm left here by myself? What if I'm all alone for my entire life? And so that what if of that is what's keeping you in this box of unhappiness, right? Because it's limiting. It's very limiting because you can't really do what you want to do now. You can't really express the things that you want, or take part in the things that you want in your life, or even enjoy your life or yourself, because you're so worried about the what if and not being loved. You're so worried about everybody else's opinions about you and how you don't have the strength enough to love yourself because that was stripped away from you from the very early ages. You were taught that, you were kind of showed by example how not to love yourself, how to abandon yourself, right? But because I don't want to say you exactly, but people, we find comfort, toxic comfort, because remember I said this is a box. You stay in this box, but that box it's comfortable, but it's toxic, right? And you stay in that box and you find comfort in that box, but that comfort at the same time makes you feel very unhappy and questionable. And you have this wavering belief or wavering thought process, like, I want to leave, or I want to do this, or I don't want to be alone, I want to have my own independence. But then that's conflicting with the bully in your head, or the not even bully, the inner child in your head, or the harmed, the version of you that is sad. I want to say that version is a bully, because then that's kind of being hard on ourselves instead of coming to a place from empathy, I suppose, and understanding why we feel that way. But that voice in your head is conflicting with you and telling you don't do it, and giving you all the reasons as to why it's not going to work out, why it's going to fail, why you should feel bad, or feel as if you just can't do it. And yeah, I feel like the fear of being alone holds a lot of us back. And from my own experience, I was wavering with myself for years before I decided to actually, you know, be alone, because I was scared to truly be alone. I remember I couldn't, like, when I first moved out when I was 18, I always had to be around my partner at that time, because being at my own place, I just couldn't do it. Like, I didn't want to be alone, because being alone meant that, like, I really had to think, and I really had to realize that I'm really not happy. I really don't love myself. And from what I remember, I lived my life by his life for a lot of years, because I was scared to be alone. As the years went on, and as I've grown, and as I've practiced self-love, and, you know, getting outside of my box and doing the uncomfortable thing, I had this yearning inside of me, this like butting heads, and it grew louder and louder and louder, where I did want to be alone, where I kind of, you know, unintentionally started practicing self-love and being alone when I was 18, because, you know, I had no other choice but to do it. And I got to the point to where I prefer to be alone. And so the one thing I can tell you, though, is that if you do practice this, and it just looks like putting yourself first and taking yourself, like, I would just sit in my car. You know, that's my favorite thing to do, is sit in my car. I've done a lot of healing in my car. I love sitting in my car. And I would just sit in my car, and I would think, and I would just talk to myself, and, you know, cry, and happy and sad tears, and go to the gym alone. And I don't know, it's just over the years, I kind of built that hyper independence. Because it's crazy, because I feel as if those who were kind of codependent, for me at least, I was codependent and hyper independent at the same time. I was hyper independent in the sense of I didn't need my family, and so I moved out at a young age. But then I was codependent, where, you know, when I got in relationships, it kind of reflected that, how I didn't want to be alone, but I was so used to being alone as a child, dealing with my own emotions. So for me, it was just a little bit confusing, but, you know, I can only speak on my own experience. And I just, as the years went on, and as I, you know, started to put myself first and stopped allowing mistreatment, I learned that I loved to be alone. And now that that's something that I do on a daily basis, I'm always alone for hours. I'm alone right now for hours and hours every day. And before, I don't think I could have been able to do this. And, you know, I want to tell you that your fear of being alone is what's holding you back from your growth, from your happiness, from finding yourself. You don't need somebody's permission for you to live your life. You don't need somebody's permission or validation for you to feel as if you are lovable, right? Because you are. And I think that a lot of our problem, or I wouldn't say problem, our awareness kind of varies, is we don't realize that we need to find that within us. We're always looking for external comfort, external love, external proof that we are loved, I suppose, or worthy. And by doing that, we kind of like, we neglect our inner voice, we neglect ourselves. And then so we continue to, you know, pave this path of looking for external worth, instead of realizing that all of that outside, we can be telling it to ourselves. You know, we can use it for ourselves. And yeah, when you start doing that, when you start telling it to yourself, when you stop looking for that externally, when you sit with your mind, and you sit with your mind in a healthy way, because I feel like sometimes it can be unhealthy, because I know that I used to spiral, and sometimes I still do spiral, and I have to take a breath and like chill the fuck out, because I overthink a lot. And so I would say sitting with yourself in a healthy way, where you're out in nature, or doing like, because for me, the things that I like to do is be in nature. I like to be in nature. I like to lay on the grass. I like to hug trees. I like to be in my car. And for me, that's therapeutic. But for everybody, that could be different. So be with yourself and your thoughts, and something that you like to do. You know, something you can do alone. And, you know, instead of pondering on all the ways where you lack, where you think you suck because you don't, where you're scared of being alone, where you're not strong enough, think about all the things that you overcome. Think about all the things that you've that you're proud of, you know, how strong you are, because there's always a positive thing coming out of that negative emotion, right? That negative emotion is there for a reason. And so think about how strong you are, you know, how you're resilient, and try your best to think about all the positive outcomes of it, to see the positive way, to see the strength within yourself, and, you know, partake in self-care and self-love, and do that daily, and give yourself room to feel and grace, and give yourself room to just exist and have days where you just don't feel good, because you're human and that's normal. Little by little, when you practice being with your mind, when you practice kind of confronting those hard emotions of loneliness, and telling yourself that you don't need to be scared of yourself, telling yourself that your thoughts aren't there to harm you, telling yourself that it's okay to be alone, and if you need to cry, cry, like, feel that shit, put some music on and cry, you know. That's healing. It is, that is healing within itself. And so if you need to do that, do that. And, you know, at the end of it, just remind yourself that you are worthy of love, and you are love. And, you know, I have had a few days, a lot of days, where I would just cry and cry and cry and cry, because I was just so sad, and I felt like nobody loved me, and I didn't want to be alone. And yeah, I don't know, I can't explain it, but when I just started doing things, and started doing the hard things, and started loving myself, every time you do the hard thing, you kind of love yourself deeper and deeper, because naturally you realize that you are strong. You know, naturally you keep proving to yourself that you are strong. And so that kind of grows into a more expansive emotion for yourself, but then also you start to do more things and more things and more things, and little by little you grow that love for yourself, and you become your own best friend, and you're okay with your own mind and your thoughts, and solitude becomes your preferable state of being, because that is mine. And I'm actually learning to be more around people, because too much solitude without you being triggered can also be a negative thing. I want to say negative, but it can also kind of keep you back from growing, I suppose. So you got to have a balance of both. But, you know, don't be afraid to be alone, and just do things by yourself. Go to the movies by yourself. Go eat by, I love going to eat by myself. Go to eat by yourself. I told you guys I would go to In-N-Out and sit in the parking lot for like 4 hours, and I would just eat in my car, and just sit in my car and like look at the sunset, and it was just so fucking beautiful. And I would just do that at least 2 days out of the week, and for like a whole year. And it was beautiful, and it was like healing, and I would just watch the birds, and it was super beautiful and super calming. And I would just be with myself and talk to my spirit guides, and talk to the universe, and talk to me, and say how much I love myself. And, you know, you just got to start doing it. Just start. Don't think about it too much. Just start, and give yourself grace and room, and love yourself through it. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I love you, my friends. I'm so glad that you sat here. It's 12:23 p.m., which is synchronicity, as I look at the time, as it's 12:23 p.m. right now. So that's a synchronicity. That means forward movement. But yeah, that's a sign. If anybody's watching this, you have forward movement going on. So I think that that's really beautiful. But I love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. You're always welcome to my family. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye, everybody.